All right, and we're back. The Northern Lights Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Eigenman, here today with a very special guest, Jordan Fallis. Jordan, how you doing?
Good. Thanks, Steve, for having me coming on today, man. Appreciate it.
Welcome to Minnesota, man. How long you been in town?
Since last August, so what's that, about 8 months now? Somewhere roughly around there.
Sure. And if people can't tell who you're with or what you're repping, tell us a little bit about how you got into the Minnesota cannabis industry.
Yeah, so I'm here with NativeCare. So I've been following Minnesota's demographic for a while now, and seeing that cannabis is going to go live in a few months from back when I was in Michigan. So that's where I come from, and I got people connected to Red Lake, and I just showed up one day and said, "Hey, I'm here," and we had some good conversations. I'm bringing some good ideas, and we're gonna move forward and progress and see what we can do collectively. And there's a lot of great opportunities for the state, and I'm excited to see what we can do.
Absolutely, absolutely. So a lot of people that listen to this podcast, they're familiar with Minnesota. They know Minnesota brands. They know a little bit about growing, and they're often, cultivators themselves at a home grow level. Take me through a little bit of your background from Michigan and how you got introduced to cannabis.
Yeah, so if we want to start from as a child, man, I've been around it my whole life. And as an adult, I realized that this industry was going to take off in a legal aspect. So I knew at a young age that this was something I wanted to get into, because I didn't want to be in an industry where you have like these dinosaurs, these mature markets, because I knew with the passion and my drive that I wanted to excel, and I wanted to get into something that like resonated with my soul and my heart, with me being around it my whole life. So in 2008, Michigan went medical. So I knew from that point, like, hey, this is going to come down the line one of these points. So I made an effort into getting in the industry. I started out as a medical grower, grew in the basement, so I got my stripes that way. I came out to Minnesota in 2017. I was a little early, because following the hemp program, and I helped the tribe get set up with that. And Michigan went live with recreational in 2017. So I said, hey, I had to go back home. Jumped in and lived in the city area and just started doing basement grows again. And then, I got connected to some good people. And 2020, I got into vertical integration, and I really got to see how to really be successful at a high level, and how to really scale up. And so did that for 3 years, and got to get into mass production and really see how to fine tune something and be successful at it. Came to Minnesota, and we're here today.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you're here.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
So Minnesota has taken a unique approach to cannabis legalization, especially on the adult use side, with respect to sovereign nations and Native American tribes. Can you tell us a little bit about how Michigan approached adult use cannabis from a tribal perspective versus how Minnesota has approached it, and where there maybe weren't opportunities for you to go the tribal route in Michigan, but where there are now in Minnesota? Like, give us a little bit of background on the Michigan market as it pertains to a Native American tribal member like yourself.
Yeah, it was difficult to see, because Michigan just was about the money. They just said, hey, whoever's got deep pockets can come in and just get into the game. And you needed like $1 million in liquid assets to jump in, and not a lot of people have that accessibility to cash. So it was one of those moments in time where you're like, man, I have the ability to do these things, but I don't have the resources to jump in. And tribes are in unique positions because we have sovereignty, and you have these relationships with the state, and the state didn't involve tribes at all in Michigan. Some later down the line, took a risk, but 10 years gone by, and the market starts to get saturated, and it's not the same. So it's nice to see that Minnesota as a state took the approach to give recognition to tribes and letting tribal nations jump in. And I think it's in the best interest to let the state slow roll things out and watch how the tribes progress, and slowly insert things, because there's a lot going on, and this industry is huge. And I think of 1.5 billion is what estimation. Maybe it's even more than that now. But so there's so much opportunity for everyone. It's like, let's see how the tribes roll out first, and let's follow that trend. And Red Lake has really taken a step forward to lead this thing without any fear, and they really want to progress. And it's nice to see how Red Lake is doing this, because everything that we're doing is going to support the community as a whole. So it's not for an individual, it's not for a few select. everything that we're doing is to create that prosperity and longevity to advance the band.
So one of the unique things about the Red Lake Nation NativeCare, how would you refer to that? So the Red Lake Nation tribe and the NativeCare brand, is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Or business, the cannabis business of NativeCare, it's a nonprofit, right? That's
Correct.
One of the things people maybe don't inherently realize about NativeCare is that it's set up as a nonprofit. And so the funds that come in through NativeCare go back to the community of Red Lake. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, fair to say. So it goes back to the programs, and it's really focusing on creating that long-term impact for the youth. There's obviously other programs as well, but from my perspective, that's what I'm here to do, is help lead this charge and give Red Lake a position to be able to create that longevity. Because not a lot of people get this opportunity. So I know what's at stake, and I'm holding this close to my heart, because I really want to see this thing excel, and I want to execute at a high level, so that way the people of Red Lake can have something to really put their stamp on.
Absolutely. For me as a longtime native Minnesotan, I think this is kind of the first moment or industry where people are saying, go up to the reservation, go there, go support them. There's actually like a tangible product that you can buy that you can't really get anywhere else on the reservation or on this sovereign land. How has the reception been for these visitors from across Minnesota coming to the sovereign nation or the tribal land? How have the customers been received by the tribe?
It's been awesome. It's very welcoming with open arms, and Red Lake is a beautiful place. There's not many places out there that's like this. You have Upper and Lower Red Lake, and that place is phenomenal. The energy that comes from that lake can't even describe it. It's a beautiful place, and everyone's welcome to come check it out and check out the dispensary we got. And we're really making a lot of progress. There's a lot of people that are behind the scenes, that don't really get spoken of, and who's on the day to day. And part of this too is I want to shed some light on those individuals who don't necessarily get seen,
right?
Because that's really who it's about, is the people doing the day to day stuff, man. Because they're kicking butt, and without the workforce up there, man, they're so dedicated and they're passionate about it, and like it's contagious,
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's Minnesota's fastest growing industry. It's clearly, probably Red Lake's fastest growing business model. But the question that I have on top of that is like, what are the products available now? We're coming just off 420. I saw that there was an edible product for sale on 420. It was some sort of bread, as well as I saw like some hash products and some concentrates. So it's starting to look like the catalog is rolling out more and more. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, we're getting there. We still have some logistics, to deal with, but primarily it's flour.
Okay.
We will have some edibles coming down the line. Same with extracts. For 420, it was more of a celebration. So we did some fry breads and some infused syrups.
Yeah.
So it was a good time. So there was a lot of big turnout there. It was a good time for a lot of folks to really check us out and see what's going on at Red Lake. And I'm excited for the future here, because Red Lake has gone all in, and they want to see this thing really prosper. So I'm very humbled to be part of that, and it's a team effort. So
right.
It's awesome to see the progress that has been made since I've showed up, and I'm excited to see what the next few years look like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're excited to see more tribal dispensaries open up across the state of Minnesota. We love the partnership that we have with Red Lake, and we want to encourage people to go there, but we also know 4 hours, 5 hours, it's a long way to drive for some flower. How would you share more with the audience around the interdynamics of the tribes around Minnesota? Like, how are all of the tribes benefiting from this pact that the state has with the sovereign nations? So what can you share from a network standpoint on how not all the tribes, but how some of the tribes are starting to adopt cannabis or are starting to consider starting cannabis businesses?
Well, it's an economic driver. So it's creating jobs. That's the most important thing. So I don't know if all the tribes are getting involved, but the ones that are they see the opportunity here for the economic development that it's going to create. There's so many jobs that can come from this. And it's also giving tribes the ability to really make progress forward while pushing the envelope, using that sovereignty piece, because we get complacent, and it's like, well, we don't know if we can do these things. And that's kind of what happened back home in Michigan, is we got complacent and we didn't know what we could necessarily do. But being sovereign, you have the ability to lead.
Yes.
And being here in Minnesota, seeing the tribes really lead, like that gets me excited, and that knows that I'm on the right path. I'm doing the correct thing, because that's what I've been manifesting, is to get involved from that perspective, to lead the field. And really, I dedicated myself to get into the cannabis space for tribal nations. I didn't know exactly who it was going to be, but I didn't care, because I knew at some point in life it was going to happen. And Red Lake has, they see the truth in me, and I'm excited to give everything I have to make sure that we get to that finish line.
Yeah. So from an opportunity standpoint, and this is something I've spoken to Peter about a little bit, is this is a unique market where we have a duopoly. We have Green Goods and we have Rise as the two medical operators, and they're well backed, but it's limited, and the reputation there from consumers is not where they would like it to be, right? And so we're starting to see more opportunities for adult use dispensaries or adult use recreational markets to open, but it's through the tribes. And so you must be thinking short-term and long-term as you play through this, because on the short term, there isn't a lot of competition, but on the long term, you want to be the best. So how do you balance kind of your short-term goals with your long-term goals, knowing that the opportunity is so large?
Honestly, I don't have any short-term goals, because it stacks itself. So I'm thinking big picture, long-term sustainability, So I want to make sure everything we do, we execute, because it all starts to add up. So if we cut corners, like that's only going to have an impact in the short term, So I want longevity. That's the whole point of this, is the long-term effect that this will have.
Sure. Yeah, it's sometimes hard to even realize that cannabis is going to be legal forever.
Yeah.
Like Minnesota made the change. It's now legal. We just celebrated our first legal 420. That's the norm now. It's not always going to be on Saturdays with a 4-can beverage in your hand.
Right.
But that viewpoint of like, oh, this is special, it's only going to become more normalized. I think there's so many opportunities for Red Lake and so many opportunities for everyone involved in the Minnesota cannabis industry. What would be some advice that you would give people just getting into adult use cannabis for the first time? Like taking your experience from Michigan, what are some of the keys to success that you like to share with people?
Make your mind up. So once you decide that this is something you want to do, don't give up. Just stay on that path regardless of what comes ahead of you or in front of you, those obstacles. Just make sure that you go all in, and this becomes your only option, So don't give yourself any other options. If this is something you want to do it, because this industry it's not new. It has been around for some time, but it's just new depending on what state you're in. So understanding that, like, you got to take risk and you have to get out of your comfort zone, And for example, like I'm here in Minnesota now. I could be back in Michigan, enjoying life, but I wanted to take risk. And this was a high risk for me, because I was in a really good situation, and I didn't know really what I was going to get myself into. So coming here, and I was, welcome with opening arms. So this feels like home, and I'm excited to be here, and I want to really make a big impact, and not for me, So coming on this podcast, originally, it wasn't something I wanted to do, because it's not about me as an individual, but I'm speaking on the collective of what's going on at Red Lake, because like there's a lot of things that people don't see that happens, like from traumas, and a lot of that gets pushed aside. So to see Red Lake, say this is what we're going to do, and we're going to push the envelope, it gets me excited, because I know that means the future is now, and we're going to execute this thing, because this is the only option we have.
Yes, I like that. And for those who haven't been but are considering going, how would you describe the culture of the dispensary at Red Lake? What can people expect? What's the vibe when you go up to the Red Lake Nation NativeCare dispensary?
Yeah, it's nice. There's some murals on the walls. You kind of get to see a little bit of what the culture and the inside's like. And, the staff is phenomenal. They're very well educated. Nokomis, she's the manager. She holds it down. She makes sure that everyone who shows up is getting taken care of, world-class style. So appreciate Nokomis. She does a heck of a job, with, like I said, there's so many individuals at NativeCare that do such a phenomenal job that, that's who the spotlight needs to go on, So I'm excited for, as we continue to develop this relationship, to introduce you to the people that are really making this thing, move, who's really driving the business forward and who have dedicated. And it's exciting time really to see that Red Lake has positioned itself to create this long-term impact, and the longevity that's going to come from this due to the workforce that we're developing, that like the short-term gains, it doesn't really matter, So like I said, this is a $1.5 billion industry in the state of Minnesota. So like people have to understand, like you said, it's legal now.
Yeah.
So like, let's roll this out slowly. Let's develop this infrastructure properly. And
right.
Minnesota is sitting in a position right now to really do this thing correct. And I do appreciate that, because if you look at all the other states, when you flood these markets, the price is volatile, and it's like, how can small businesses really, create that sustainability? So give the tribes these little windows to really set up and like roll this out slowly, and then the rest of the state will see like there's longevity here for everyone, So like, let's not really battle.
Yeah.
Let's work together and like let's see, what the future can bring for everyone. And it's not just about one individual or a certain business or company.
Right.
Because there's so much here for everyone to really partake in. So only take what you need. And that was something that part of being a Schnabbe, only take what you need, So I don't need a whole lot. I have almost everything I need in life. So I'm here to give. I'm a servant leader, and I thrive off that. And that's part of the reason why I'm here in Minnesota is like, I just want to give everything that I have and I've learned. And it gets costly, if you have to learn stuff. So I'm trying to give everything that I've learned to minimize some of those risks.
Sure. Yeah, I think the jobs portion of this industry is still very much yet to come. But I know economically that this is going to be such an opportunity for so many folks. So many kids in college right now or kids in high school right now. Now they have the opportunity to get into the cannabis industry legally. They don't have to go grab weight and chop it up into bags and say, right, I'm in the industry. Like, there's going to be much better opportunities than what you were allowed back in the day. So I'm excited about that. If people want to get more involved, are there opportunities right now to work at Red Lake, or will there be more opportunities in the future? If people want to get involved, where should they look to NativeCare?
Well, first off, we're expanding. So not today, but down the line, there's going to be so many openings. And anyone who is interested, just call a dispo and start there. Ask for Nokomis. Nokomis will direct you into where you need to go. So like there's so many moving parts here because we're vertically integrated. So we have the grow, we have the retail, and we're looking to expand. So anyone who's interested in an opportunity, go ahead. Like, just start with calling the dispo, ask for Nokomis, and the Nokomis will help lead you to where you need to go. We're always looking for talented people who want to get involved, and this thing is long-term. This isn't a short-term play. So any of those young people out there, high school students, early college kids, like, if you want to make an impact in life, like, cannabis might be the route, because it's new to the state. So it's open for anyone to get involved. So,
absolutely.
Do you want to work in the car industry? It's pretty mature, So,
right.
Coming from Michigan, I was like, nah, I don't want to work in the car industry, because you got some dinosaurs who's been sitting there for some time, So, as a young adult, it's like, hey, take some risk. You're not going to sit there and see, your fruits come to fruition off rip, but like, take some time and dedicate your craft and find your niche, and through time, you'll blink and 10 years will go by and say, wow, I made a good career decision.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope the best for the Minnesota cannabis industry. I hope it's sustainable for decades upon decades, and that we don't have these high, crashes. And truthfully, Minnesota's already been through that with the CBD, the rise of CBD, the fall of CBD, the 2019, 2020. And we've covered this on the podcast quite a bit, but did you have any perspective into like the Delta 8 side of the industry? Were you paying attention at all during that 2020, 2021? Like, when people started to figure out they could manipulate CBD, was that on your radar at all as an adult use operator in Michigan?
Not really. It was more on the Fed side though for me, because like the path I've taken is like, I want to see the hardest path forward for myself, So it's like, how can I get involved? Because the state side of stuff, once you get connected to the state, it's a lot easier. But from the federal side, it's difficult. So, the Delta 8s, the Delta 9s, it's like, using that farm bill So that was my piece, you know, like in 2017, like we knew that 2018 Farm Bill was coming. It's like, so how do we capitalize on that? How do you use that, you know, as our way into it from even, let's say, Minnesota's standpoint? Because like you said, you had those two companies that were operating from the medical side, but once that 2018 Farm Bill came out, I was like, okay, now we have some groundwork that's laid out that we can really get activated. I haven't spent a whole lot of time outside of that, but, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, and it brings up something else that I have to ask about. You know, we are on the Minnesota Cannabis College podcast, Northern Lights. A lot of people don't know you. Maybe they don't know a lot about you, but you have your hand as well in a college that you're building in Michigan. Can you share any insights into how you're building a school and what that is like, and, you know, how it kind of compares in some ways to the Minnesota Cannabis College?
Yeah, so we got a school that I represent, the Saginaw Chippewa Tribal College. We look at natural plant medicines, you know, so we do have an outdoor farm, and it's just focusing on those medicines, you know, so that is how I look at life. So you have cannabis that is a natural plant medicine.
Right, absolutely, yeah, and, you know, we'll see down the line if there's more plant medicine that's able to be, you know, allowed for in states, but I definitely see a path for mushrooms and cannabis, and it's what people want. They're sick and tired of being sick and tired. They want to have natural plant options for themselves and their families. And one of the things that we're fighting for at the Capitol is more plants for caregivers to be able to have. And, you know, that's somebody who's been on the podcast, Kayla Fearing. She's fighting for that, and I think she's making good progress. And I think people should be able to have a caregiver be able to grow those plants for them. And that was a huge part of how the Michigan market grew so quickly.
Yeah, and I think that's a good approach too, is that really helps, you know, the people who want to get involved in growing perfect their craft.
Sure.
And craft cannabis is always going to be there, you know. Commercial cannabis and craft cannabis is two separate things.
Right.
You know, those small batches, you can put a little more love and care into that, and it shows.
Yeah. So we're here with Jordan Fallis from the NativeCare. Jordan, last question for you. What is your favorite strain of cannabis?
Purple Punch, man. I love Purple Punch.
And if people want to find out more about Red Lake, where can they go to learn more?
Go to nativecare.com, you know, and the phone number is on there. When you call, ask for Nokomis. Nokomis will take care of you, man. And I want to say thank you for allowing me to be on this podcast, man. It's very humiliating, and you know, it's exciting for what's coming down the line. And Minnesota, just take your time, man. Take your time. There's enough here for everyone, regardless of your financial situation. Just know that. Slow roll this thing out, and like really take the time to really understand that, like you said, it's legal now. So if things change tomorrow, is anyone really gonna see an impact? No. You know,
yeah.
So just take your time and like let's really do this the correct way, because you can't go backwards. You can only go forward. So
right, absolutely. Thanks for the wise words. We look forward to introducing you to more people across Minnesota, and we look forward to seeing more products coming out of NativeCare and Red Lake Nation.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me on.